The Quern at the bottom of the sea. Once upon a time, but it was a long, long time ago, there were two brothers, the elder one rich and the younger one poor. Now, one Christmas Eve, the younger one hadn't so much as a crumb in the house to eat, either of meat or bread. So he went to his brother to ask him for something to eat to celebrate Christmas. It was not the first time his selfish elder brother had been forced to help him, and you may well believe he wasn't very glad to see his younger brother's face. But he said, "If you will do what I ask you to do, I'll give you a whole slab of bacon." So the younger brother said he would do anything, and was full of thanks. "Well, here is the slab of bacon," said the elder brother, "and now you go straight to perdition." Gracious goodness, thought the younger brother. Perdition is the bad place. That doesn't sound kindly. But what I have promised and given my word to do, I must stick to. So he took the slab of bacon and set off. He walked the whole day, and finally at dusk he came to a place where he saw a very bright yellow light. "Maybe this is the place," thought the man to himself. So he turned aside, and the first thing he saw was an old, old man with a long white beard, who stood outside a hut that's like a little cabin, chopping wood for the Christmas fire. "Good evening," said the man with the bacon. "The same to you," said the old man. "And where are you going so late?" "Oh," answered the poor man, "I'm going to the bad place. If I only knew the right way." "Well, you're not far wrong, for this is the way," said the old woodcutter. "When you get inside, the demons will all want to buy your slab of bacon, for good meat is scarce in perdition. But mind you don't sell it unless you get in trade the hand quern which stands behind the door. It's a flat, round rock with a stick handle to turn it in circles, to grind against another flat rock. When you come out, I'll teach you how to handle the quern, for it's good to grind almost anything." So the man with the bacon thanked the other for his good advice, and gave a great knock at the door to perdition. When he got in, everything was just as the old man had said. All the demons, great and small, came swarming up to him like ants round an ant-hill, and each tried to outbid the other for the bacon. "Well," said the man, "by rights, my good wife and I ought to have this bacon for our Christmas dinner. But since you have all set your hearts on it, I suppose I must give it up to you. But if I sell it at all, I'll have for it the quern behind the door, yonder over there." At first the boss demon wouldn't hear of such a bargain, and chafed and haggled with the man, but he stuck to what he said, and at last the demon had to part with his quern. When the man got out into the yard, he asked the old woodcutter how he was to handle the quern, and after he had learned how to use it, he thanked the old man and went off home as fast as he could. But still the clock had struck 12 on Christmas Eve before he reached his own door. "Wherever in the world have you been?" asked his wife. "Here have I sat hour after hour, waiting and watching, without so much as 2 warm sticks to cook the Christmas soup." "Oh," said the man, "I couldn't get back before, for I had to go a long way, first for one thing and then for another. But now you shall see what you shall see." So he put the quern on the table, and told it first of all to grind sparkly colored lights, then a tablecloth, then meat, then eggnog to drink, and so on till they had everything that was nice for Christmas dinner. He had only to speak the word, and the quern ground out what he wanted. The wife stood by, blessing her stars, and kept on asking where he had got this wonderful quern, but he wouldn't tell her. "It doesn't matter where I got it from. You see, the quern is a good one, and never quits, and that's enough." So he ground meat and drink and cakes and cookies and pies enough to last for a week. And on the third day he asked all his friends and relatives to his house and gave a great feast. Now when his selfish elder brother saw all that was on the table and all that was behind in the cupboard, he grew quite spiteful and mean and hateful, for he was jealous and couldn't stand for his younger brother to have anything. It was only on Christmas Eve, the elder brother said to the rest, that my poor brother was in such need that he came and asked for a morsel of food, and now he gives a feast as if he were a king. And he turned to his brother and said, "But where in the world have you got all this wealth?" "From behind the door," answered the younger brother, for he didn't want to let the cat out of the bag. That is, he didn't want to tell his secret. But later on in the evening, when he had drunk a drop too much wine, he could keep his secret no longer, and brought out the quern and said, "There, you see what has gotten me all this wealth." And so he made the quern grind all kinds of things. When his elder brother saw it, he set his heart on having the quern. And after a great deal of bargaining and pleading and coaxing, he got it. But he had to pay $300 for it. And his younger brother bargained to keep it till hay harvest, for he thought, "If I keep it till then, I can make it grind meat and drink that will last for years." So, as you may imagine, the quern didn't grow rusty for lack of work. And when hay harvest came, the rich brother got it. But the younger one took care not to teach him how to manage it. It was evening when the rich brother got the quern home. And the next morning he told his wife to go out into the hayfield and rake the long grass after the mowers cut it. And he said he would stay at home and get the dinner ready. So, when dinner time drew near, he put the quern on the kitchen table and said, "Grind herring fish and soup broth, and grind them good and fast." So the quern began to grind herrings and broth. First all the bowls and all the dishes filled up, then all the tubs started spilling over, and so on till the kitchen floor was quite covered in fish and soup. Then the man twisted and twirled at the quern to try to get it to stop. But for all his twisting and fingering, the quern went on grinding, and in a little while the broth rose so high that it was over the chairs and over the table, and as high as his chin, and the man was about to drown. So he threw open the kitchen door and ran into the fancy parlor room. But it wasn't long before the quern had ground the parlor full too, and slopped over the sofa and the fireplace mantel, and it was only at the risk of his life that the man could get hold of the slippery knob of the house door through the stream of broth. When he got the door open, he ran out and raced off down the road with the stream of herring fish and soup broth at his heels, roaring like a waterfall over the whole farm. Now his wife, who was in the field tossing hay grass into the wagon, thought it was taking a long time to fix dinner, and at last she said, "Well, though the master doesn't call us home, we may as well go. Maybe he finds it hard work to boil the soup broth, and will be glad of my help." The farm workers were willing enough, so they sauntered homeward. But just as they had got a little way up the hill, what should they meet but herrings and broth and bread, all running and dashing and splashing together in a stream, and the master himself running in front of the flood, racing for his life, and as he passed them he howled out, "I wish each one of you had 100 throats, but take care you're not drowned in the broth." Away he ran as though the devil were at his heels, hurrying to his younger brother's house, and begged him to please, please, please take back the quern that instant, because, he said, if it grinds only 1 hour more, the whole town will be swallowed up by herrings and broth. But his brother wouldn't hear of taking it back till the other paid him $300 more. So the poor brother got both the money and the quern, and it wasn't long before he set up a farmhouse far finer than the one in which his selfish elder brother lived. With the quern he ground so much gold that he covered the house all over with plates of gold, and as the farm lay by the seashore, the golden house gleamed and glistened far away over the sea. All who sailed by stopped to see the rich man and the golden house, and to see the wonderful quern, the fame of which spread far and wide till there was nobody who hadn't heard tell of the famous quern. So one day there came a skipper, that is, a sea captain, who wanted to see the quern, and the first thing he asked was if it could grind salt. "Grind salt?" said the younger brother. "I should just think it could. It can grind anything." When the skipper heard that, he said he must have the quern, cost what it would, for if he only had it, he thought he could quit making his long voyages across stormy seas to bring back loads of salt. Well, at first the younger brother wouldn't hear of parting with the quern, but the skipper begged and prayed and pleaded so hard that at last the man let him have it. But the skipper had to pay many, many thousands of dollars for it. Now, when the skipper had got the quern strapped behind him like a backpack, he soon made off with it, for he was afraid that the man might change his mind. So the skipper had no time to ask how to operate the quern, but got on board his ship as fast as he could and set sail. When he had sailed a good way off, he brought the quern on deck and said, "Grind salt, and grind both good and fast." Well, the quern began to grind salt so that it poured out like water, and when the skipper had got the ship full, he wished to stop the quern, but whichever way he turned it, and however much he tried, it was no good. The quern kept grinding on, and the heap of salt grew higher and higher and higher, and at last down sank the ship. There lies the quern at the bottom of the sea, and grinds away at this very day, and that's why the sea is salt.
This has been an Augusta State University audio text.
All rights reserved. Copyright 2009.
Thanks for listening.